natin ay si Sanaiyah Gurnamal. Siya yung founder at owner ng The Third Eye. Alam mo, maganda ang background niya dito, Jimmy, ha? Kasi hawak ko yung bio niya. She actually received her BA from UPenn, University of Pennsylvania sa Amerika.
Where?
Sa States. Amerika siya.
Anong school?
University of Pennsylvania.
The University of Pennsylvania.
And nag-aral din siya ng gemology sa GIA, and then may certification sa clinical hypnotherapy. As in, she's very well educated. And then now she's focusing on Theta healing.
She's based in the Philippines now?
Based in the Philippines now, but she was based in Dubai previously.
Okay. Okay, good evening.
So good evening, Sanaiyah.
Good evening. Good evening. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Okay.
Well, thank you for coming. Because this what attracted me to you was the Theta.
Okay.
Because I'm very familiar with all the brain waves. I've read quite a number of books on the subject, but not, I don't know what it is about.
Sure.
So can you tell us something about this?
Sure. I have been giving a series of talks on this healing modality called Theta healing. I believe quite strongly in it, as I've seen miraculous healings with this technique. I also teach this course on Theta healing so people can be a certified Theta healing practitioner. Now what Theta healing is about it's about connecting to the creator or the God consciousness, or you could call it the universal source energy, whatever you choose or prefer to believe in, but essentially the ultimate consciousness from which we have come from. Now in Theta healing we train our students to slow down their brain waves to the Theta state. Theta brainwave state, and in that state they're able to take their vibration so high that they can connect with the the God energy. Now in addition to that, the word Theta in Greek means soul. So the founder of Theta healing actually named it Theta healing for two reasons. One, it's really about healing the soul, as well as the brainwave that's being utilized when the healing is taking place. And these brainwaves have been measured scientifically to ensure that yes, in fact, the healer as well as the student is in the Theta brainwave. So it's really a remarkable healing technique, scientifically proven to be actually accessing this really powerful brainwave.
Yeah, so
to know the brainwave is to have an EEG or electroencephalogram.
You're absolutely correct.
In the absence of electroencephalogram, how do you know that your students are in that state?
Well, actually, initially when the founder of Theta Healing, Vienna Stiebel, when she started practicing the technique, she had no way of ensuring that she was going into that state until she herself measured it. But what she found is when she would continuously go through the same process of getting to the Theta state, then miraculous healings would happen. She actually got a portable EKG system, and she would actually measure her students in the class as well as herself during the readings, and consistently they would be going to Theta Healing state. Now, what she did is she ensured that that technique could be replicated by any teacher who's trained in the technique as well as every student. And just like we go to the gym, for example, 3 times a week, and if we lift weights, then we're going to build muscle. In the same way, if you use this process and you keep practicing, you will get to the Theta healing state. And how do you know that you're at the state? Well, the healings actually happen. And we use a number of different techniques within Theta healing that helps you validate that, yes, a belief system was changed, or the illness was healed, or the emotions which perhaps were initially in the client's body have gone. And sometimes it's as simple as knowing how you feel after the healing session. You feel sometimes completely different in terms of how emotionally balanced and stable you feel. So that pretty much tells you that the technique is working, and if the technique is working, then the person really is going into the Theta state.
How do you get to the Theta state? What is the process that you do? And how many minutes does it take per person to get there?
Okay, so the Theta healing technique happens through a meditational process.
Okay.
So what we train the students to do is to access something called the 7th plane of existence, which is where the creator energy sits. So essentially you're using a process of visualization and meditation to take your brain waves from beta, which is what we're in right now, through down to alpha, and then even slower into Theta. And it's really a visualization process that students repeat over and over again until the neural pathway is created in the brain, which happens through any form of repetition. So I've actually created a CD for it, and the CD is 12 minutes long because it's really about relaxing people and getting them into it. But someone who's been through the course will get into a theta state perhaps in 30 seconds.
30 seconds.
Yes, and for me, I've been studying it for a very long time, and I've also been practicing it in all of my healings, not to mention I'm certified. But I'm in 24/7 eyes open theta state, which you learn or you get trained to hold, and it allows you to be really aware of everything's that's going on around you. You can read situations and people, and you essentially are tuned in while still being very much in this reality.
Familiar with the Silva method of mind control?
Yes, I've heard of that.
I taught this for 3 years, and what you're saying is exactly the same as the alpha wave. It's exactly the same. There's no difference in what the healing takes place in the alpha level, and you can get into it in less than 30 seconds if you're used to it. And as I said, I used to teach this, and I've seen also miraculous healings. In other words, you don't have to go to theta in order to heal. You can go to alpha level, and there is tremendous scientific evidence for that also. So what's the difference between having an alpha level and theta?
I agree with most of what you said. Definitely Alpha has tremendous healing power, and most of the energy healing techniques, such as Reiki, pranic healing, as well as a number of other healing techniques do take place in Alpha. But what we're doing is we're training students to go deeper into Theta, because things like cancer can disappear in a Theta technique, whereas it's extremely rare to hear of that taking place in an Alpha brainwave.
Yeah.
Okay, pain is especially effectively removed in Alpha, which is why Reiki is something I really advocate as well. And meditation in general takes place in an Alpha brainwave.
Right.
But very few people in a meditative state have been able to heal diseases instantly, which is what I've seen in Theta. I take clients all the time, and I see miraculous healings in an instant. And that's essentially the beginnings, the foundation of what Theta healing is about. It's about an instant healing through the Creator's energy. So that's the main difference, I would say.
Kumbaga, process of running your sessions, how do you shift that mindset or the belief system that people have?
I'm glad you asked me that, because that's actually one of the most important parts or aspects of Theta healing, is working with our belief systems. Every disease we have has a belief system behind it. Every emotion, every action, every thought comes from our belief systems. So, for example, if anyone has financial difficulties, they have negative belief systems with money. If anybody has some relationship issue where they keep feeling betrayed, or it's a pattern in their life, they have a belief system
it
that
comes from something, actually.
absolutely. And most people actually deserve to be, they believe they deserve to be punished or betrayed or suffer or pain, and it's really just what is happening in our head which causes the experiences that we encounter in our life.
It comes from your conscious. It's like you're deriving pain from yourself.
Absolutely. And actually belief systems come from 4 places, we say in Theta healing. It comes from your genetics, from your ancestry. So for example, if your ancestors were very poor, then their offspring or that lineage will tend to have issues with weight sometimes, because they starved to death in previous generations, that the body feels this need to hold on to food. So that's a genetic ancestry. Our belief systems come from past lives, from experiences we've had in another time and place. Our belief systems come from our childhood, what we've picked up from our friends, our family, our teachers, as well as the soul's belief systems, what the soul has learned over time. So what we do is we identify what's the belief system that's causing a certain experience or situation.
What's causing the issue.
The issue. And then we double check with kinesiology, because with kinesiology you can identify whether the subconscious believes a certain statement to be true.
Okay.
So what we do is, once the belief system is identified, we remove the negative belief system through the theta brainwave state, and we replace it with a positive belief system. So for example, I had a client who had financial issues. Now, what happened with him is he used to hear from his grandparents and from his parents that money is evil. That when people have too much money,
it's a very strong
belief
system.
It can
destroy your life if you don't focus on that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So he had always heard that when people have a lot of money, they become arrogant or families break apart, relationships break apart. So he grew up subconsciously believing it. And of course he works, he's earning money, but at the same time, every time he would work hard at something, it wouldn't be a success. And whatever money was invested or whatever money was supposed to come out of it
Got thrown away.
got thrown
perhaps,
away.
yeah.
Because deep down inside he believes money is evil. So he's not going to want any money to come into his life because that means he would become evil.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ang
So it's
sinasa-
subconscious.
Yes.
Where have you taught this course aside from Dubai and now here in the Philippines? Anybody?
Essentially just Dubai and the Philippines. I've been running the course here every 2 months. I have students who've been practicing the technique, and many of their friends say that they've transformed. You know, their personalities have just opened up. I see how it's worked in their lives, and I will continue to be running this course every 2 months here in the Philippines. It's a commitment I've made to myself. I believe that if something's touched you, then you have to spread it to everybody else.
How long is the course?
Well, there's actually 3 courses that comprise the practitioner training program for Theta Healing, and each course is 3 days. Well, 3 days, 3 days, and then the last course is 2 days.
But one can take only 3 days. And
You
then
can take the first 3 days, but in order to practice the technique in totality, you would need at least the 6 days to be able to do the whole thing in terms of healing, changing belief systems, and so forth. Now, at the end of each 3-day course, you would get certified, and you'll be certified by the Theta Healing Institute of Knowledge, which is a institute based in the U.S. It's the only institute that is certifying Theta Healing practitioners. And Theta Healing, by the way, is a registered technique worldwide. So nobody can claim that they're practicing Theta Healing unless they've been certified from this institute. So,
Interesting. Why does it take that long?
Well,
in the
it-
Alpha, in the Silva course, we teach it in a few hours, and you can learn it.
there are a lot of people who in 3 hours will understand it completely, but for most people, they need a good 6 to 8 days of practice and training to do the technique correctly. A lot of this has to do with confidence as well. When you start on day 1, you may not be confident that you'll be able to heal a disease in an instant, but perhaps you feel like you can meditate at that point. By day 2, you start talking to each other's angels, and that's not something people on day 1 necessarily think they'd be doing very easily. And then with each day, you learn so much practical information as well as spiritual knowledge, and each day you're practicing different exercises. So really the 6 to 8 day process is a complete journey within your own space, as well as connecting to the world around you. So it is required.
Success stories amongst your students before. What can you share? I mean, what
Sure, absolutely. I've seen people who've come in and they are in a state where they're not eating, they're not sleeping, emotionally they're totally off balance. And in one healing session, everything changes. They're back to emotional balance. The situation that was causing them the anxiety and the difficulty essentially changes because their state of mind changes. I've had a client who's come in with a form of osteoporosis and has had that for 7 years. After one healing session, it disappeared. I've had people who've had tumors and lumps and they've disappeared. I've had people who had skin conditions like dermatitis, eczema, little bit of belief work, changes completely. I worked on a cancer patient actually in Dubai who she was on a 4th stage of cancer. There really wasn't anything the doctors could do for her except make her comfortable. So they had moved her from the major hospital to a pain management hospital, and what the doctors told me at that time was all they could do, they couldn't operate, they couldn't give her chemo, they couldn't give her radiation because she had been through everything and her body couldn't withstand anymore. So all they could do was give her morphine to make the remaining month or 2 comfortable. Yeah, and I worked with her and I did 4 sessions with her. Session 1, the nausea had gone from the morphine. She started eating, color back in her face. The session 2, she started sitting up. She was a lot more comfortable. By the 4th session, I discovered what it was that was causing her, or what has created the cancer in her body. And when I changed the belief that had caused the cancer, the next thing I knew, after I had gone away on a trip, I came back a week later and she was out of the hospital. And she lived for another 1.5 years.
Okay.
So it was, for her family, a completely miraculous healing.
So,